Mm-hmm. I'm small.
You know who that is? That's Michael Jackson.
That's
Jackson
Michael
5.
Jackson. You've heard Michael Jackson. Everybody knows you, John. They barely know me. They don't know you.
You may want to tag yourself. I don't know how to do that yet. Nope, I don't know how to do it.
Okay. Well, John. Oh, she ran away from me.
Okay. All right, here we go. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Tea Time with Bunky. Tonight we have, he just likes to be known as Greco, right? Just everybody knows him as Greco, but let me tell you a little bit, just a little bit from my perspective. I don't want to do too much. He has been involved with coaching some adults now, younger kids into adulthood now in different sports, little sports things around Sullivan County, um, feeding positivity into the young people, building a relationship through sports. Because when children play in different, they learn how to be a team players, sportsmanship. They may fight out there, but the relationships and bonds are being built. And Michael was a part of that. He ran for office in the village of Monticello. We'll get into that. We'll get into that because I feel that because of the sports, you built that relationship with so many of the kids, and we'll talk about the result of that. Okay? All right. So, everybody, I don't have an applaud thing, but welcome, Mike Greco.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here in the early days.
Yes,
I,
I. I'm glad. I'm glad I got in.
uh,
Because you're filling up quickly on me.
yes, I'm really happy about that. And we talked a little bit before, and I asked your opinion to make sure I was doing okay. Like because you would tell me the truth. You're very
Yes,
truthful,
I'm
and
very
and
truthful.
that's from you. And let me let you talk for a minute. I'm gonna let you talk, and then I'm gonna get into a couple things you probably didn't know.
Okay,
Okay,
that's that's
so
scary, but okay.
no, it's not. No, it's really really not. It's not. It's not scary at all.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, I I've always done sports, even as a young person, like 9, 10 years old.
Hmm.
I would go down to High Street and Cod Street, and we would play sports. And I was always the organizer. I was always the guy who kept score. I was always the guy who made sure the teams were fair. I was always the guy, like that was always what it was. And it was funny because I never really looked past where I was.
Hmm.
Like I would just go down to Cod Street and High Street and play with everybody who was there. And it did not really matter to me who they were,
Hmm.
because that's who we were. We were just,
Right.
a bunch of kids playing ball. I mean, we would play football on the street, and one power line was a touchdown, one power line was the middle of the field, the other power line was our touchdown.
Hmm.
And we played there. And then, like in the winter, we'd play in the parking lot behind the old Woolworths, right? And we
Oh,
would just,
Woolworths.
yeah, see, we get a lot of that with me. I'm like, I remember when this was here. I remember when the Canton was open.
I
I
forgot
passed
about
it. I passed
Canton.
that today, and it just heartbreaking. Just
Yeah, young
heartbreaking.
people don't know about all that stuff.
Yeah, they know nothing. But yeah, and then I played high school baseball,
Hmm.
poorly at times. But I played,
Right.
and then I went back right after I graduated high school. I went back and I started coaching. So I was coaching modified baseball at 19 years old
Oh
in
wow.
Monticello. So yeah, I was like 2 years out of high school and I was coaching modified baseball. And to this day, there's still many of those guys who
Hmm.
are still very, very close to me. Very, like guys who I consider friends to this day, and they played for me when they were in 7th grade. Darren Rayner was on that team. Edwin, everyone called him Flacco. Rodriguez was on that team. Victor and Percy Ramos were on that team. It was a great group of guys. Rob Dawson was on that team. Andre Duncan was on that team.
So you're naming people? I have no clue who you're talking about.
And the thing is I'm naming people from 30 something years ago, because that's how they were to me then, and that's how they are to me now. I've been very lucky. I coached Dennis Rivera like when he was in high school. I coached his son when he was in high school. Very scary moment when that happens. I told the younger Dennis I'm not coaching his kid.
Does he have kids?
I hope not. Not yet. He's close. He's at that age. He might. Oh. He's in his early 20s, so he might. Yes, but I told him I'm not coaching his kids.
It's a legacy,
It is. And the thing is what I've also found is that because I started off as just Monticello, like everyone knew me from Monticello, and then when I started doing adult sports, I started branching out into other areas. And it's funny because you're from Monticello, you don't like kids from Fallsburg, you don't like kids from Liberty, but then you end up you graduate high school and you end up playing rec sports with guys from Liberty and guys from Fallsburg and guys from Monticello, and you just play, and it was funny because was basic. And I found out it's funny because I coached at Fallsburg. I coached Chris Gates and Shane Weingart, and like those group of guys who were great. Harris and and Dave Lashinsky, so I had a great group of guys in Fallsburg, so it didn't really matter where I've ever coached in Southern County. I've had great guys, I've always been very lucky, and then I got to coach at Walk Hill in Ulster County, and those are great guys there. And I got to coach at Burke a couple of years ago, and I got to coach girls softball for the first time, and they were amazing. I was terrible, but they were amazing. They were great.
What you had was the leadership, because you talked about it earlier when you said you weren't that good, but you organize it. You need a manager. Somebody has to take the lead, because otherwise it's all over the place and nobody knows what positions and what they're supposed to do. And that's where you came in. There's always somebody that has to be like, you know what, I'm taking a reign over this. You know? And what I wanted to tell you, I didn't because I'm not a big sports fan. I'm not. I was a cheerleader since I was 4, though. Fallsburg Go Comets.
You probably yelled at me during the game at some point.
I'm sure I did. I am, because my uncles and my whole family played sports. The Hinton family, they all played sports. So, I knew who you were in when Jason did that Juneteenth. Out in Horizons?
Yes.
No, was it Juneteenth?
It was Juneteenth.
And you came out there. I didn't know who you were. Jay was like, Mom, he coached all of us. I'm like, your father probably did those games. I don't, because I don't do bugs. I don't do baseball outside, all that stuff like that. That's just not who I am. But then he was telling me, how you coached everybody, and you was telling me how, you coached all these little kids that were probably monsters at the time. I know mine were. I can speak for mine. I can't.
I've always told people, I've always laughed at teachers have come to me and go, you have this great relationship with these kids. I'm going, I'm not asking them to do something they don't want to do. I'm not teaching math. I'm not teaching science. Right. I'm like, hey, I have a ball. You like playing this game? You like coming to play baseball. You like coming to play basketball. You like coming to play football. Right. So when you see me, I'm doing something that you like doing. Now I might make it difficult at times, but at the same time, you don't hate it walking into the door. Right. I've seen students. I've worked as a substitute teacher. I've worked in schools, for a very long time, and you see kids and they're walking into that classroom and they just despise it, and it's because they're not successful at it.
Right.
And it's not the teacher's fault. I will never blame a teacher for a child struggling in a class. Right. You can't blame a 6th, 7th, or 8th grade teacher if the kid's been struggling since kindergarten in math.
Right.
And it's hard to do, But at the same time, I'm in a position where I'm taking these kids and I'm letting them run around. I'm giving them what they want.
Right.
Like these poor teachers have to sit these kids down for 40 minutes at a time, and try to get them to stay on point, and I just got to, like I can make them run. I can make them do push-ups. I can make them do, like I'm a king of push-ups. They know I'll give a push-up in a second.
Well, that's the teachers, because I'm
Can't do that as a teacher.
no, because I can imagine trying to keep Kenny still for 40 minutes when he was little. Oh no, 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 no. But you're also involved in adult sports,
Yes.
like the turf field soccer.
Yes.
That's adults. Indoor, which I could deal with that because it's indoors. There's no bugs.
Yeah, there's no bugs.
I can do that. And
My wife's the
son-
same way. She's not really a big out because it might rain, and she does not want to hear rain with her hair.
and snow sitting out there. Well, see, I'm all natural now, so I
Yeah.
can do the snow, the rain. It doesn't even matter to me because it's all the same.
Yeah, no,
But
she was natural during COVID, but she's not natural. Well,
I'm-
I'm not allowed to talk about that. Never mind. I'm not allowed to
no,
talk about that.
no, I understand. I understand her struggle because I almost gave it up. I was like, I'm done with this, but it's a course I'm on. I'm gonna stick with it. Two of my boys, well, Rode did last year. I don't know if he still does this year, but Kenny still does the flag football.
Yes.
So I see the videos, and and it doesn't matter. Those men, they really turn into little boys when they're out there because they get upset and mad. You see the little temper tantrums. I'm like, would you look at
Oh, I've been yelled at so many times in my life at adult sports,
Mhm.
but I mean I have like a pretty much a go-to comment about that. We as athletes, we're told all the way through youth that sports are important.
Mhm.
And we're told to be those guys. We're told to be good in school and turn around and spend time at your sport and play your sport as hard as you can.
Mhm.
And 0.0001% get paid to play sports. So the rest of us are just pretty much playing sports. So the thing is if you graduate high school
Mhm.
and you're not good enough to play in college, then what? You've spent the last 6 to 8, 10 years getting good at a sport, and you're just supposed to give it up,
Right.
right? And even if you're a college athlete, even if you get to play 4 years of college, you're talking you're 22 years old. You've spent most of your life becoming an athlete,
Right.
and then as society, we tell these kids just to stop. Go get a job.
Mhm.
The thing is that we shouldn't have to go get a job. We should be able to go and do the thing that we love to do. Like we don't stop. If you play guitar in high school, we don't tell you to stop playing guitar when
Right.
you graduate high school. We
Right.
don't tell you to stop singing if you were in a chorus.
Mhm.
So why would we tell athletes to stop playing sports? Why would we not want them to? And the thing is the same thing that sports was for a child, where it's their release, it's their escape, it's their spot where everything else goes away. Like they don't have to worry about math homework when they're on the football field. But you know what? You don't have to worry about mortgage payment when you're on a football field.
You're right.
And it's a great and it's a healthy escape
Right.
for a lot of young men and women. I mean, and I started off, and it's funny, I started off running a softball league when I was 19 years old. Right? Running Monticello League down at the Monticello Field, and that was it. And I was down there 4 to 5 days a week, and I loved it. I loved because the interaction for when you're at an adult rec league, you meet so many people, and you get to interact with so many different people
Mhm.
that you wouldn't interact anywhere else. I mean, like a baseball player, a kid playing softball. I mean, I had Michael Mednick playing third base, who at the time was a district attorney, right? And people on the field, were struggling in life, but they never were concerned about Michael being there. They were never concerned about playing on a field with Marcel PD or state troopers or sheriffs, because they were just playing ball,
Right.
right? And it was a great place for people to just push everything else away. It didn't matter if you had a great job, if you had no job. If you could pay your ump fees, which not everybody did, sometimes that came out of my pocket. I'm still waiting for certain people to come down from the car with their ump money. Ellie Patton, Senior, waiting on you. And I hope he watches. But the thing was, it's a great place to get away from life.
Yes.
And sitting through COVID for 6 months and sitting through all these things when I got to go back to work and we got to go back to doing some sports, even you could see the relief on people's faces.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's hard when you can't do what you love to do.
Yeah. It's
And
a
I love
total
sports.
distressor. It's a
Yeah.
distressor. It used to be, it, I don't know if you realize it, but being a mom of sports, when my boys were little, it was a distressor for me because I got to go out there and yell at everybody that was doing my kids wrong. Like it was like a group of us moms. Like it was a group of us, and we would just be like, "You release so much." It's like it's the best. You shouldn't be yelling at little kids, but
Oh,
we
no,
yelled
yeah.
at the other fans. We yelled at the other players. We yelled at the umpires and the refs, and But
No,
so I kind of get it a little
I
bit.
actually had the other way because when my son played football, I can't yell at people
Hmm.
because I have a very distinctive voice.
Hmm.
So when I yell, it sounds very mean and angry.
Mine sounds like a chihuahua.
Yeah,
So
I've been told that when I say nice job, it sounds like F you. Uh,
what about is it your facial expression? Like
no,
what is it?
it's the tone of my voice.
Okay.
I sound like a yelling coach at all times. It's just a tone. It's just a tone. I can't. I'm not even going to try and deny it or hide it.
Okay.
People have been telling me my whole life.
But that's
But
the
the
first
thing,
step. You acknowledge it. You're
yes.
like,
But the thing is so when my son would play, we would have parents
hmm,
who would be like, like saying my son's an offensive lineman, and they'd be like, "Oh, the line's not blocking," and I'm like, "Your son's not following blocks," like. And then next play, like he would follow a block. Joseph would pancake somebody. He'd be running in for a touchdown, and they'd be like, "Hey, he's doing a great job." I'm like, "Yeah, because he's finally following a block." So I as a parent, I've always tried, and I do use the word tried
hmm,
to stay away from other parents during
hmm,
games because as a coach, I also know, like my son played football. I know
right.
my daughter played volleyball, which I love it. She hated when I was there. She
I'm
was very
sure she
nervous.
did. I'm
She was
sure.
nervous. I never spoke her during her games. I would hide. I mean, if you've been at the pit in Monticello, because you all been at the pit in the games in Monticello,
Yes.
I used to be all the way in the top,
Really?
as far away from the court as possible. She knew the second I walked in the door.
Wow.
So like I was not a Joseph didn't care. Joseph didn't care in any way, shape, or form. He loved when I was there. He didn't care when I wasn't there. He just liked to hit people. He loved to play football. He loved he had 2 years in Marcelo on varsity, he had 2 years in Liberty in varsity,
Hmm.
and he just and I mean he plays flag. He's been playing flag since he was 14 years old. Like he's been playing with those grown men since he was 14 years old. And he didn't
That's
care.
because his dad's a coach, and that's
Well,
what
I
they
said,
do, right?
I was like, who's going to sue? I was like, I'm not suing me. If you get her playing flag, And I remember it was one of the best stories. Jeff O'Neill, great, one of my favorite people on the fields. I played softball with Jeff. I've actually remember Jeff as a student and now as a teacher, which is, it's nice to see so many teachers I know. Jeff was yelling at one of his teammates because Joseph was just beating him up. And Jeff goes, you're getting beat by a 16-year-old. And Joseph goes, I'm 14. And we'd walk back in.
Now, all of that to teach your old players and things, of teachers and officers and grown men with families and things like that. That goes into the relationships, right? You build all of these relationships with kids, now adults from all over. The election in Monticello, when
Yes.
you ran for trustee.
Yes.
It didn't turn out quite how people wanted to, but you know what? It really made a statement because you were writing.
Yes.
And the other side, who you were running against, Karen Rue, they didn't
Carmen.
expect Carmen. I'm not a politician. I don't know about
I
that.
know. I know. You just,
Um, they wasn't expecting the turnout.
yes.
All those write-ins because they totally had the upper hand. They totally had the upper hand because they're already in position. They already know what Palms agrees. They know what to do.
Mhm.
But you had all them young people out there. They was knocking on doors. All those young people that wrote your name in the ballot in Monticello that never voted probably would not have voted had it not been for the relationship. Now you was out there at every Black Lives Matter rally.
Hmm.
You was at all of them, so you were present. So
Yep.
which made a big difference also. Like, how do you feel about that? Even though, like I said, it didn't turn out like you wanted, but it was still a win.
Yes. So it's funny how that works out. I did not go. I went to a Black Lives Matter event, the first one that I went to. I didn't say a word. I stood in the back. I listened. I was being attended. Like I was being there.
You want to hear something really quick, really funny? In the beginning, nobody knew how it came about. Because I remember I saw Crystal. She was like, okay, well, who's doing this? Before she got up there and spoke. Do you know my Jason put it out there?
Hmm.
But he never, so you know that?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
So
I know.
I don't know.
Yeah, no,
Jason
and I
Corey.
spoke to Jason about that.
Yeah.
I did, and the thing was is that I mean, if there's anybody out here who doesn't know who I am, my children are interracial, right? But it doesn't, like my children are amazing, and in every way, shape, form, they could be purple and they'd be amazing. They could be any color they'd want, and they have been. Like my daughter's hair has been every color of the sun. Like of the rainbow, my daughter's hair has been that color. And I love her no matter what.
Right.
But a lot of kids who know me from school or from coaching or from something like that, this was important to them, and I felt it important to me because I was in a situation where I knew a lot of what was going on, and I had dealt with it, and I dealt with it naively at first. My daughter, many times I would say to her, I'm like, I don't understand why you embrace your mother's heritage more than you embrace mine. And this was when she
That's
was
a deep
younger.
question. Oh yeah.
It was, it wasn't coming from a deep spot. It was coming
Right.
from a kind of a selfish spot, going, why?
No, I get it.
Because my ex-wife wasn't part of the situation that much for my daughter, so it really didn't make any sense to me. And then finally one day my daughter goes, Dad, that's how they see me. And instantaneously I understood.
Yeah.
I understood, and I'm like, okay, we're going to do this. But I mean, the first time Black Lives Matter was said, I was one of those people that said all lives matter until my daughter hit me in the head and said, doesn't matter, they all do, Dad.
Right.
You can't have all lives matter if Black lives don't matter. And she was, and like we all grew up with that image of the little devil and little angel on the shoulder.
Yeah.
My daughter has always been my angel. She's always been the one who told me when I'm doing dumb stuff. She's always been the one who goes, like, no, that's wrong. And that's been, I mean, since 7 years old. Like she's 25 now, and she's still, to this day, she'll still tell me when I'm doing dumb stuff. She'll probably talk to me about this. So I went, and what I found was I didn't find any other leaders. And I don't consider myself a leader. I don't consider myself a leader in any way, shape, or form, other than these kids know me from school. Right. They know me from coaching. That's all they know me from. But I didn't see any teachers. And I didn't see any political people that weren't running for office. That's what I was bothered by. Yeah. I was bothered by that people who were running for office weren't there at the beginning, but when they figured out that it was a spot to be, they all showed up. Yeah. But at the beginning, there was none of them. And I had a lot of kids who came to me, and when I say kids, they're in the 19, 20, 21, right. And they came to me and goes, it's so nice that you're here. They were thankful that somebody that they looked up to in any way, shape, form was showing support.
Right.
And I didn't think much of it. I was just there because I thought it was the right thing to do. I was surprised that wasn't more people there. I was surprised there wasn't more, people who say that they're there for the community not be there.
Yeah. And never showed up.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I went to the second one that I went to, and I heard Crystal speak. And I did not know Crystal.
Right.
I knew Crystal's brother. Crystal's brother worked for me, right? But I did not put the two together ever. Like until she said, my brother. I'm like, oh, I do. I heard her speak, and it
Awesome young
was
lady.
yes, and it was a
Awesome.
very and she was very powerful, and she
Yeah.
wasn't the only one, but she was very powerful on how she spoke, and I I saw people's faces, and really what ends up being is when young people talk to young people, no one takes them seriously.
Hmm.
And I said, you know what? I'll talk. And I write nothing down. There's nothing written down. I have nothing ever written down.
Hmm.
Mainly because if I write it down, I'll rewrite it 500 times and I'll drive myself crazy.
Yeah, I understand.
Um, so I spoke about my children, and I spoke about what my children have faced being, being black in America,
Right.
and I talked and I said, like I have a lot of white friends who do not understand the conversation that I have with my children when they turn 16 and get a driver's license.
Yeah.
They don't understand, that my son, who is, 6'2", even in high school, he was 240, 250, 260. He was a big kid.
Hmm.
And I told him, you can never get into a fight because you will be the bully. And God forbid you hit a white kid.
Right.
You will be out of school for weeks because you'll come off as the bully. Even though you could be, I mean, like my son got
Right.
jumped. My son got jumped in the streets and didn't throw a punch because he knew that if he got into the streets, if he got into a fight in the street, he'd been arrested. And he took like 7 stitches in his lip because he knew if he got into a fight in the streets of Monticello, he'd be arrested. So he said he just took it,
That's
and
terrible.
yeah. Then I went out searching for the kid like a lunatic,
Oh,
and
no, I
God,
understand. I understand.
yeah. So, but the thing was, is like, you know, my kids shouldn't have to live a different life
Right.
because of the person I love,
Right.
and that's how I've always said it. It's like, I mean, and it's a terrible thing when people go, oh, you have a certain type. The women I love are the women I love. It
Yeah.
doesn't really matter what color they were.
Right.
I mean, in my case, I was lucky that honestly, I've been very lucky that I found 2 women who actually wanted to be with me and said yes to me, because it's not easy being at a softball field 5 days a week, or being at flag football for 8 hours on, like,
Yeah.
I mean, I run basketball leagues in Marcel when we used to run. It was 12-hour Sundays. You're talking about like 50 Sundays a year. I'm at a sports event.
That's rough
That's
on the
not the best spot to
relationship.
be married to.
It's really not. It's not.
Yeah. But again, my children are beacons for me.
Hmm.
They and it's even the little one. Like the little one who became a superstar when I decided to run, because I don't like being on like in a picture.
Hmm.
Like this is like from here up, I'm good.
Uh,
Damn body, no. Uh, so
get it.
a lot of my pictures on when I was running were Joanna.
Hmm.
This beautiful 7-year-old who just glows.
Hmm.
And even that, it's funny because people are like, oh, I love her hair, I love her hair, I love her hair. She has hair. Like it's just hair. Like she's got beautiful curly hair.
But you know what? I was just talking to one of my sisters, and we were talking about hair,
Hmm.
right? We were talking about hair, and we were talking about the Crown Act, which is only passed in what, 7 states,
Yes.
which is ridiculous. That, and people that don't know what the Crown Act does, it basically gives people like me and his daughter right to wear our hair in its natural state. Now, relaxing and permanent, that's not its natural state. My hair is a 4C, which is coily, and I'm starting to embrace it. Wearing braids, like I never went to work with braids because it wasn't accepted, it wasn't professional.
Right.
But now, what? Let somebody tell me I can't wear my hair in its natural state.
Yes.
They would have to explain to me, then what do they think the natural state is. I'm not uh thin. Well, I'm a little thin, but but not
I
thin.
am
I'm
not.
short. I'm short, and I have kinky hair. This is who I am. I don't fit the professional mold the way it used to look.
Yes. Well, it's funny because I went to college to be an accountant.
Hmm.
And if you've ever met me, you can't see it. Like I, I'm not a shirt and tie type person.
Hmm.
I don't own a pair of shoes.
Really?
Yeah, I don't own a pair of shoes. I have four pairs of
Gotta
sneakers.
gotta work on that thing. Gotta have
No,
at least a good pair
no,
of
oh God, no, no,
shoes.
ooh,
Okay.
no.
All
I'll
right.
give you.
Okay.
I wear black sneakers. I'm trust me, they're gonna bury me in black sneakers. Uh,
Mm, okay.
and well, I mean, I'm being cremated and spread around the field. That's the point.
Okay. Okay.
That's just that. But yeah. So I I I was never considered a professional type.
Hmm.
You know, like I decided that that wasn't for me, and I wanted to be a t-shirt and shorts guy most of my life, and sweats, and that's what I've done. You know, like even when I worked at schools, I was khakis and a two-button shirt. You know, I never embraced the button-down shirt and the tie and
That culture.
that culture. Yeah, I've never been that guy. You know, and I never will be that guy. I'm very comfortable with that. I will never be that guy.
Now let me ask you, because we talked about politics and different things like that. A little, not really, just a little bit about your runner. We didn't go into the politics fully, but what is your take on the police reform?
I am I'm for I am not a defund police.
Right.
I am a educate police.
Hmm.
I think too many of our officers are put in positions they're not educated to understand.
Right.
Right. I'm trying to figure out why it takes what 8 years to become a doctor. It becomes, it's, I mean, 4 years to become an accountant.
Hmm.
How long does it
That's
take to
time to become
become?
an officer. Right.
How long does it take to become an officer? And the thing is, if my accountant messes up my books, it costs me money.
Hmm.
If a police officer messes up at his job, it could cost a life.
Right.
And that's something like, and the thing is like, I know why we don't pay police officers more. I know why we don't train police officers more,
Hmm.
because we've devalued that part of our systems, right? We don't have a problem paying a professional athlete $30 million,
Right.
but we don't want to pay a police officer $75,000.
And teachers and healthcare workers and
Yep.
people that are out there in the forefront doing all the dirty work.
All the people that became important during COVID.
Exactly.
Yep.
And and people probably become unpopular for this, but it's all right. People, they don't really value our officers, our good officers,
Yes.
the good officers, because like some of the officers, they're like real blue lives matter. Blah. No, it's a uniform.
You
Basically,
chose that. You chose that.
it's a uniform.
Yes.
And there's
I did not choose to be bald. This was not a choice, right?
no, that's genetics.
That's genetics.
Right.
Being blue is not genetics.
No, it's not, because you can take that off.
Yes.
Like I've had that conversation with my son. I think I've had a brief conversation with my ex about it. And my son, he's like, Mom, especially when all of this happened, because I'm sure he wouldn't have shown me, but I'm sure it was a little scary there because you didn't know what you were facing. But he said, when I take this shirt off, and before he could finish it, because I have a habit of finishing people's sentences, I was like, yeah, when you take that shirt off, you're still a black man.
Hmm.
When the police officers and someplace else pull you over and you're not in uniform or whatever, you're still a black man to them. So he chose, and I'm proud of him.
Hmm.
I'm proud of his job. I'm proud because that career is a hard. I could never be an officer. You know, I am proud that he chose to protect and serve and has wanted to do it since he was a little boy.
Yep.
So when those other people go out there and they talk all that stuff to the left, police this, not in a, I'm talking about other police officers that are extreme and
Yes.
people that worship the blue life, you know, they really need to cut it out. They need to cut it out.
Yep.
Some jobs, my job is dangerous. Some of the things and I don't have a weapon. I don't have mace. I don't have anything to protect me from somebody with severe mental illness or whatever, or an addict that decides they want to come for me. You know,
Hmm.
officers have that protection. So they have to use it wisely. They have to learn how to de escalate
Yep.
before they go in there ready to shoot up everybody. So that's my take on the
Yep.
funding. Not the funding. I don't want to defund. Just reallocate the money.
Yeah.
the extra funds, put it where it needs to go.
I think education is, and I'm a huge opponent of education for everything.
Right.
I mean, and which is funny because I'm not a good student. Like when I went to high school, I was a C student. I actually, my grades, if it wasn't for sports, I might not have graduated high school.
That's a lot of people because you got to
Yep.
remain eligible.
You got me eligible, and that was one of those things that like I was good. Like you could tell when I was playing sports because my grades went from a D to a C. I didn't go from a D to an A. It wasn't like I was breaking my back to do it. I made sure I was good play.
Right.
So that was important to me. But like after I got out and I became part of, and I never found myself to be part of education, but I always found when I worked at the middle school, I was safety staff, and I worked with Robin and Tyrus and some great people. But our job was really to de-escalate the child when they got thrown out of class. And so many times I'd have a kid come out of class and he's F-bombing and he's S-ing this, and you know, that B don't like me, she don't like me. And I'm like, okay, slow down. Think what you want to say, because if you walk into the AP's office with all that noise, you're just going to get sent home. Why were you in trouble? Well, she said I didn't do my homework. Well, did you do your homework? Well, no, but I'm like, so you didn't want her to announce that you didn't do your homework. You didn't want her to put you on blast is really what it was.
Right.
So when she did, you got mad, and your reaction was really what the problem was. He's like, yeah, but she don't like me. Well, maybe because you yell in her class. Like, I mean, I've told many kids, they're like, oh, she threw me out. And I was like, well, what were you doing? She's like, well, I crumpled up a piece of paper. It's like, so you interrupted her class. Like something that she spends an hour and a half a day at home getting ready for, you decide, I'm gonna be a fool. I'm gonna crumple up paper during a class. And that's not, you know, like, and again, and some teachers are great. Some teachers can handle that noise, and they'll just, you know, and they just keep going. And then some teachers are like, it's hard. It's hard to, you know, like they have a plan, and you know, if they go off plan, you know, right off the rails.
So your position was like a go-between between the
Yes.
resource officer.
Yep. I was the one before Monticello had security guards. We had safety staff. We were the hall monitors. We were the guys, you know, the guys and girls who would like, get to class, let's go. Like we weren't, I did not walk around with my arms crossed. I didn't treat the job like I was a security guard. I didn't treat the job like I was a prison guard. You know, I treat the job like these kids need someone else in their lives once in a while, and I'm here.
Right.
Which again will lead into the reason why even kids who did not play for me, felt comfortable around me because they knew I wasn't going to call them out. Now, I will call you out for silly stuff. Like if you know, like you say to me, oh, well, you know, I'm not, you know, I didn't want to do my homework. Well, then, you know, come on now, you know, like I'm not gonna let you, you know.
Right.
And I think it's funny because I had yesterday, I had some Monticello kids up at basketball, which I don't work at basketball anymore. I work at soccer, but they were giving the girl at the desk a hard time because they didn't have any good basketballs. And I'm like, well, shut up. You know, just shut up. You know, like, why are you guys yelling at this poor girl?
Right.
I was like, it's not her fault. And I was like, and she's smarter than all you. And she's like, oh, well, what do you mean? I was like, well, she's going to Penn State. And you're sitting here. Right. And she's in Pine Bush and you know, and she plays basketball and I'm very proud of her. You know, she's you know, she's very quiet. You know, she's you know, funny thing is she looks a lot like you. She's small, she's quiet, and you know, so people decide that they can yell at her, and I'm like, no, you don't get to yell at people. You know, like you don't get to yell at people, right? So I'm comfortable standing up in that kind of situation to these kids, and because they know it's not coming from a place of hate or anger,
right?
They're comfortable hearing it from me. When I worked at Walk Hill, one of the things that was said to me that kind of hurt me a little bit was one of the administrators said, you know, you work well with our urban kids.
Urban kids.
And I was just like, thank you. You know, I don't think
insult.
I don't. Well, I don't. That's just it. I don't work well with urban kids. I work well with kids.
Right.
right? What ends up happening is what you see as me working well with urban kids means is you have other people in your situation who don't work well with urban kids, who don't feel comfortable having conversations with kids outside of the parameters that you're comfortable in. I don't have parameters. I if a kid comes to me and he has problems at home, he's comfortable talking to me, because I have no problem with. I've had kids knock on my door, starving, like,
Right.
Coach, I need something to eat.
But that's just not the urban community.
I know,
It's like they
and
have this thing in their mind,
yes, they do.
and it's a built-in fear, it seems like. But
Yep.
this over COVID and all of this just seems to have made it worse. It just seems
Well,
to
the national leadership made it worse. That's all it really ends up being. And people, I mean, and I have Republican friends, and I explain to them, I have no problem with the Republican mentality. But when you sold your soul to
the
get in the
devil.
White House, and then but to this day, you are still kneeling at that altar.
Right. Isn't that unbelievable?
It shocks me. But I mean, but when I talk to Republicans about like real things, not the Trump stuff,
Right.
they have good points.
Right. But
Like,
it shouldn't be about
yeah,
Democrat, Republican. It's humanity. Like I keep saying,
yes.
it's about the way
But
you treat people.
But the thing is the way that Trump treated the world, he created this divide where if you're Republican, you're a racist, and it's not true.
It's not true.
But at the same time, if you're a Democrat, that does not mean that every Democrat is Black Lives Matter, because they're not.
Right.
I can tell you that. That I've met. That there's good in everybody,
Yeah.
and there's
Just
bad.
like there's bad in everybody.
And there's bad in everybody.
Right.
And they shouldn't, your political view shouldn't be how people are treated.
It should be.
And running for office, the funny thing was, I didn't run as a Democrat. I didn't run as a Republican. I didn't run as an independent. I didn't run as a third party or anything. I ran as Greco. And that's all I ever.
You weren't under anything.
Nothing. And I am a registered Democrat, and I have, but again, I have no problem. I have many friends who are Republicans. I have many friends that are independents. I have many friends who couldn't tell you a political party if they tripped into it. Right? They don't care.
Right.
They don't.
Right.
They don't know. They don't. And a lot of times people don't understand the difference between Democrat and Republican. They just know that they don't like that guy. That's all.
Right.
My mother never voted outside the Democratic line, ever. Like if Gandhi could be on the Republican line, she'd vote against him. Just because she's a Democrat. This is what I do.
I just became involved. Really, I really just became involved this year. That's when I really started looking closely at the local levels. Because people are quick to go for their head. Yeah, but the Trump stuff and the top offices, that stuff is going to trickle down. But these people that are right near you, these are the people that are making decisions for your life today.
Well, that's what I said to people, because Trump's not the reason why we have 18 empty stores on Broadway.
No.
Trump's not the reason.
No.
Right? Trump wasn't the reason. Biden's not the reason.
Right.
Obama wasn't the reason. Like we can go all the way back to, I can point to the people the reason. The people who sit on Village Board for the last 16 years are the reason. The people who have allowed people to buy property on Broadway and do nothing with it are the reason. Right. And it's not just empty stores. Oh my God, look how terrible Broadway looks. Our young people don't have job opportunities in the town they live in.
No.
So, I see it all the time. I work in Goshen. I go to Middletown, I'll get food, I'll get this, I'll get that. And I run into Monticello kids working in Middletown all the time. Why? Because that's where jobs are. So our kids drive a half hour a day to get to a job.
Right.
Right. It's not
They
like
don't have
me.
a car.
Yep. And if you don't, I mean, and that, again, that's a situation for some of these kids. So
Right.
what are we narrowing them down to? How many kids do we know, like are stuck at jobs that they can't get out of because they have no other choices.
Right.
My first job ever. Well, my first job ever was working on Broadway of Monticello at a shoe store. And I was a street yeller. 2 pairs of shoes for $5, just $5. You get 2 pairs of shoes for $5. 13 years old, for 8 hours a day. 2 pairs of shoes for $5. That's all you need. You got $5. I can get you 2 pairs of shoes.
Wow. I was blessed to have Apollo Mall. Me and
I,
all of
I,
my
I,
friends worked at
I,
Apollo Mall.
I worked at Apollo Mall. I worked at Van Heusen.
I had three
I
stores
worked at the
there.
toy store.
Uh-huh.
I worked, my friend worked at Bass Shoes.
That was my store.
Yes,
Bass.
my friend Matt worked at Bass Shoes. We
Mm-hmm.
used to run up and down that place like we were kids all the
Sounds like
time.
Paulsburg. That's what we
Yep,
used to. It
all
was
the time.
half of us.
Yep,
Half of
everybody
us.
worked.
Yeah.
Everybody, and
Everybody.
think about it, everybody worked at Apollo Mall,
Yeah.
right? Because it was 20 to 30 stores that people could work at.
Yeah.
I worked at the furniture store for a while there,
I
the one
remember
all the way
that.
at the end,
Yeah.
right, where we get one customer a week. I have no idea how we stayed open. Well, obviously we
Oh,
didn't. Uh, but the thing was, is again, Apollo Mall,
yeah.
nothing. All of
That's a
Broadway,
waste.
nothing.
That is. So, I'm like, really, like this.
And the thing is, the problem with Apollo Mall is that there's nothing they could do with it. Like it's too big to do anything. But don't subdivide it. Don't break it into little stores. Don't do something with it. Just let it rot away. And that's the problem is you go up and down Broadway. It's not you let these buildings stay empty for so long
Mm-hmm.
that now they're unfixable. Like you walk by the Canton. If anybody's walking down Broadway, walk by the Canton. Look, you can actually see mold growing in the door.
Really.
Yes. A spot
I
that we
remember
used
when
to go
Monticello
to.
was jumping. Monticello, like,
Yeah.
and like the parts they fixed up. Monticello's beautiful.
Yes. And I mean, I wasn't a big fan of when they changed Broadway.
I love it.
Because that was and being someone who drove through Broadway
I'm not.
during
I'm
that
not
time,
sold.
it was terrible.
Yeah.
But the thing is now it looks right.
Yeah, it does.
Right.
It does.
And I will and I'm giving a pass to George, because I know he's fighting the good fight, trying to get things in.
Mm-hmm.
You're starting to see businesses pop up, and I'm hoping that that's coming.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, we have huge waste of space on Broadway. And it's going up and down and it's not like it's like, oh, we have 20 different owners.
Mm-hmm.
If you got rid of two owners of Broadway, you get rid of 20 empty stores.
Wow.
Two people.
So why are they allowed to do that? Just
Because they're not
what
being
is the
held,
point?
because they have not been held accountable by the village. They have not been held accountable by the village to put something in that. They've been every couple of years they come in with some new plan
Mm-hmm.
that is they're going to get money from the state, they're going to get money from the government, they're going to get this, they're going to get that, and then nothing happens, and it goes back to it.
So the Monticello government, the people that are in position in Monticello,
Mhm.
that's been there since the beginning of time,
Yes,
they're the ones allowing this to happen.
they're the ones that are
For
not
the
holding
most
people
part.
accountable.
Right. Because
Other,
George
other,
just came in.
yeah,
He just came in.
other communities, like Boston has a thing that if you have an empty storefront for a certain amount of time, they fine you.
But why don't they do that? Like, what is the problem?
Well,
And
you
I'm
have to
talking
get,
like I'm from Monticello.
yeah, you
Fallsburg
have
is
to.
so much worse.
Well, again, Fallsburg, same thing.
Fallsburg is a
Fallsburg's the
no.
same thing.
I'm
I
sorry.
remember when Monticello had stores and Fallsburg didn't, and we used to go, oh man, like
Mhm.
Fallsburg had nothing,
Right.
right?
We had
And
some stuff at one point when I was little. When I was
yeah,
younger,
yeah,
Fallsburg was
well,
powerful.
again, and that's what I'm saying. Like I would say, early '80s is when Fallsburg started disappearing. Woodridge. Like some of that, and again, it's not the local people. It's not the people who live here
No.
who are letting this happen. The people who own the stores on Broadway don't live in Monticello. Sorry, they don't. They don't live here.
Right. So then they don't see it. They
They don't
don't
see.
see
They
the
don't
eyesore.
care. It's
Right.
it's for them. It's a tax write off. They don't care.
That's really sad.
Yep. So
That's
the
really
thing is that I mean, when I worked at the village, I got kind of an inside view of what was going on.
mm-hmm.
And you have good people. The people who work at the village, the people who actually work, the ones who work on the roads, the ones who pick up your garbage, the ones who are your police officers, the ones who work in your offices. These are all good people,
Mm-hmm.
and they're all locals, and they're all working their butts off.
Right.
I mean, and the people who are in charge of these departments are doing their jobs,
Mm-hmm.
right there. I mean, it is really like I don't know anything about water and sewer. I know water goes out of my house when it's dirty. I know water comes into my house, hopefully clean.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I know.
Right.
But the guys who are in charge of water and sewer department, that's their jobs. They know it.
Mm-hmm.
So as an elected official, for some of our elected officials to question, like they know something about water and sewer, like they know something about roads. Like the guy who's in charge of the roads in Monticello, right? Jay Sherb, I've known since high school. Well, actually, middle school. He used to beat me up in middle school. He's bigger than I am. But he's done road works like since high school. Like he worked for his uncle like at 16 years old.
So he
He's now in
knows what
his
he's doing.
50s.
Right. He
This is
knows
what he
his stuff.
does. This is what
Right.
he knows. So who's Carmen or Rochelle or even George to ask him, "Well, you think this is a good idea?" Yes, I do, because you know what? This is what I do.
Right.
Like this is who I am.
Right.
So I mean, for our elected officials to hang tie are good employees,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what you see. You know, when they make people who work for the highway department litter pluck instead of going to workforce development and getting people to work through workforce development to litter pluck. So we're going to spend money to make sure that they pluck certain roads that happen to be
Certain roads.
certain
Certain
roads.
roads.
Yeah. Right. So we have them working instead of going to workforce development and giving those people job experience.
Right.
Now I know, and trust me, workforce experience, workforce development for adults is not a fun job for them.
Right.
It's most of them do not want the work experience.
Right. Some
But
of
you
them are
know what?
mandated. You have to go there
Yep,
and
you
fill out
have to
these
go there and you have to go to
applications.
work.
Yeah. Right.
But the thing is the village isn't taking advantage of that situation. Instead, we're spending money on staff, right? And we don't have summer work program for our kids through workforce development. We had that when I was there. When I was working recreation, we had it. I made sure. And you know how many? I mean, I had a kid who worked in workforce development for me. He got his first check, had no idea what to do with it. Didn't have a checking account, didn't
Right.
have anything. So I took him to the bank and we opened up a checking account. He still has that checking account,
Wow.
right? I had a kid who took his driving test in my car because he had no car,
Mm-hmm.
right? His mom kind of bailed on him when the day he was supposed to get his driving test. Didn't get it done. So the thing was, I was like, yeah, sure, don't hit nothing, but go ahead.
That's kind of scary. Like.
Yeah, but the thing was, is I trusted him, and I trust Monticello kids all the time, and I tell them all the time, I trust them more than they trust them,
Right.
right? And at the beginning, we talked about like how my running for office wasn't a success. You
But it
100% wrong.
was.
100% wrong.
It was.
I had no intention of winning an election.
Right.
That was not my intention. I did not try. I tried. I did not. My intention was to bring attention to what was going on. My attention, my drive was to get young people to see the difference. Every time I spoke at a rally, or every time I spoke to anyone about politics, I said to them, I did not run to be the answer. I ran to be the bridge.
Right.
Right. And I talk to young people all the time, run for office. Right. I mean, and I hate to say it, I'm 50 years old. Right. We messed up. We did not, my parents were Woodstock kids and protested and everything I am is because of my mother and my father. Right. Because they taught me that there's no hate, there's no nothing. And, and my dad was a correction officer,
Mm-hmm.
and he would leave work every day and never tell me about work. He worked at Woodburn Max. He never told me about work. Right. And he came home and he was dad.
Mm-hmm.
My mother worked at the hotels like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But thank God for my grandmother, or my name on the bottom of the screen would be Sunshine or Moonbeam if it was up to my mother. Right. I was born in 1968. I was going to be a flower child, and my mother was going to make sure that I was going to get picked on my whole life. My grandmother walked in and said, no, he's going to be named after saints. That's why my name is Michael Anthony, because I'm named after saints. Right.
And saints, yeah.
Yep. So the thing is that, but I have more faith in the next generation than I have in my generation.
My son told me that. He was like, Ma, your generation, y'all messed up. I'm like, yeah, because I can honestly say, being 50 also, I didn't pay attention. I was in my own world. You know what I'm saying? It was all about what I was going to do tomorrow. It wasn't about my kids' future and my grandkids' future. But I naive. Um, I honestly didn't have any idea of how bad it was. I knew things were crazy. Okay, I'm not blind, but growing up here in Sullivan County, you do have kind of a blinder
Yep.
over. Like I see, even though I'm black, I'm a female. I didn't experience what my cousins and friends experienced. I didn't really start seeing and becoming more aware until I had sons. You know, that's when the
Mhm.
fear and that fear, like when you talked about your son driving, when my oldest started getting closer to learning how to drive, I didn't want them. And to this day, I'm still like, slow down, don't do this, don't do that, because I want them to come home.
Mhm.
And it doesn't matter. I heard Michelle Obama talking about it on the news this morning. Her girls are 20 and 21, like they're older now. She was like, and they're driving. One of them could be playing with their music loud. Hello, I know my boys do it, driving with the music loud, and you don't hear the officers behind you or whatever because you're in your own zone, right?
Mhm.
I mean, like I've done it, accidentally speeding, like, oh snap, I'm in the music, I didn't get it, but they don't know the person,
Yep.
so anything can happen. Anything can happen, and
I
uh,
mean, and I don't. It's so strange because my the story I tell is my daughter got pulled over because the lights on her license plate
mm,
were out.
right.
That's what she got pulled over for.
I got pulled over for the frame around my license plate.
Yep.
He said
Just
it was obstructing the view of the plate. Are you kidding me? You can see. I got it from the Honda dealer. What are you talking? It came on the
yeah.
car.
Well, I actually got pulled over for the trees hanging off my rearview mirror,
Since
and
that
I'm like,
incident that
that's
just happened,
crazy.
since that one that just happened, I
Hmm.
have no air fresheners, nothing hanging,
I
nothing
I
on my
was.
mirror.
Do you know how
I'm
long I
not giving
got?
them a reason. I'm not even giving you a reason to pull me over
But
because
when
I
she
know what
pulled me
you're
over
doing.
for it, I was like, "Are you serious? Like that's what you like." Of all
You're
the
just
things,
finding a reason. That's
I'm
why I say I don't.
driving down the highway at 65 miles an hour. I'm literally doing the
Well,
speed
you're
limit.
only. I was like, well, you're really
Yeah, I
only
was
doing
really, I
60.
honestly,
Okay.
because I'm the opposite. When I'm driving and not paying attention,
Hmm.
I'm doing like 55.
Oh,
When I'm
see.
driving and paying attention, I'm doing 90
Oh,
because I drive fast. But when
okay.
I'm not paying attention and I'm just driving, I don't look at the speedometer at all. I'm doing like 65.
Hmm.
I guess as I got older, I just, like it doesn't happen. So I was actually driving the speed limit, and
Hmm.
she pulled me over, and I'm like, "Why are you pulling me over?" She's like, "You have things hanging from your rearview mirror." I'm like, "Seriously?"
Right. That's so stupid. It's like you know
Because
you
I,
have
I had
better things to do.
Yep, I have a bunch of speeding tickets, so I'm
You should
thinking
have.
to myself, going, "Oh my God, I'm getting caught again." Like I got a speeding ticket in Pine Bush, and they gave me, like they were like, "Oh, your driving record's terrible." I'm like,
Did you
"Terrible."
have anybody in the car with you, or were you
No,
alone?
no, I was alone. I was alone. It was very strange to
Yeah,
me to
that's
get
real
pulled over.
random. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just like, "That's so weird."
Yeah.
It's like so weird.
You don't have
So it
nothing.
does. I mean, the randomness does happen once in a while,
Hmm.
you know. But at the same time, I got to drive away with no issues.
Right.
Nobody, there was no question of my car. There was no question. I didn't get taken out of my car. I didn't get, like it was just like, "Yeah, can you take those down?" Yeah,
Right.
okay, got to go. No, didn't check my car. Didn't open my glove box. Didn't know, like I have nothing in my car,
Right.
but that didn't happen to me. I don't know. I don't know if that was my son. That would have been the same way.
And
My
it's
son driving my car, would that have been the same way?
right. But like, I want to put out there again to the police officers. We know it's not all of you guys.
Nope, it's not.
There's just only a few that were bullied. I feel like they were bullied in high school. They came out, got a badge and a gun, and like, oh, now I'm going to wreak havoc on everybody's life, family, everybody who picked on me, or I thought they're like bullies with badges. Some of them, because they were the bully child. Some of them, not all of them. Myro wasn't bullied,
Mhm.
you know, but some of them were. But you can tell by their attitude, because
Yeah,
they walking around like they're in the wild wild west. Are you kidding me? Come on, cut it out.
and like I said, I know a lot of people who because I've worked in schools a long time.
Hmm.
I know a lot of people who are police officers now,
Yeah.
and I would say I probably know 10 people who are police officers now who I knew when they were kids.
Hmm.
9 of them are good people
Right.
who I'd
Great
want,
officers, probably great
who were
officers.
great officers who would do exactly what I asked of them.
Right.
The one kid who I know who's a cop, I know
Was he
why he's a cop.
bullied? Was he bullied
He
at
was
home or in school?
he was he liked to fight. He liked being in situations. He liked arguing with people. He
He
liked,
shouldn't be. They should have did a deeper
but
background
again,
check on him.
yep. But I'm saying that, like, but in my world, 9 out of 10. I will also tell you that out of all the people who I've come in contact with who became teachers,
Hmm.
right? Most of them got into it for the right reason.
Michael
Most of them got
doesn't.
into it because they really love kids and they really want to work with them. But there is a couple
Yeah.
who that
That
paycheck is
shouldn't
good.
be yeah, they
Who
shouldn't
that
be
paycheck
teachers.
is good, and that's why they did it, because because you know what, they like having summers off. They like having a Monday to Friday and never working weekends. They like having that if it snows, I get to stay home.
Right.
And those are the same teachers who did not like Zoom.
All right.
Those are the same teachers who did not like that they had to work from
Yeah,
home
the remote working and
and do that
actually do work
and actually do work and
Yeah.
actually not do packets.
and show that you care.
Yes, and show that you care. And but again, but with that said, I know so many great
Yeah.
teachers. And
That
I know
go
so many great
above
cops.
and beyond. That
Yep,
go
I know so
above
many
and
great cops.
beyond.
I was always hurt in Monticello with one thing that the Monticello PD that bothered me with Black Lives Matter is they would not let the Black police officers work the events.
Hmm.
They never let Tyrus or 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 your ex or anyone else work the events.
It would have been a
Why?
good. It would have been a good unity thing. Because I
Yeah.
know when we did Fallsburg, I mean, like, we got to go. It's 8 o'clock. But I know when we did Fallsburgs, Fallsburg PD was right there.
Yep. Yep. Marcel, if you went to Marcel PD, you went to Marcelo,
None. They
none,
were
and,
in
and they were
unmarked
there
cars
in
and
cars.
on the outskirts.
Yep. And again, and I know the reasoning.
Yeah.
They didn't want a confrontation. They didn't want to think that people
There
were.
was none. There were
But
no. It
but but
wasn't.
again, they didn't want to take a chance of it. But the
Right.
thing is if you're going to just have an officer sit in a car, why couldn't it be Tyrus, who's a great officer,
Hmm.
who has been part of our community since the beginning? Who I tell people all the time, Tyrus, I would vote for Tyrus to be any political office he wanted. Anyone. Tyrus Walker is without doubt one of the greatest people I know. Right, and he's a Marcel PD officer, and he's somebody who's been there for these kids just as long as I have,
Hmm.
and he's in a great role to help our kids.
Well, I may have to meet Tyrus. I don't know.
You
But I we have to go.
Casey Walker's little boy.
We're gonna have to do this again.
Yes, in like September or October when you have time for me again.
Yeah, but I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. Um, this was a really good conversation.
Yes.
It really, really was. And
Yes.
we'll be able to get into more because September, whatever, election time again.
No, no, I'll be
New
around.
election. So, oh yeah, we're
I'll be
gonna come
around.
in and give our
I'd much,
perspective.
but I will say this: I'd much rather have some 20-somethings and 30-somethings want to run.
Yeah,
I'd much rather have them run than me.
we'll see.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyone who's watching, if you're in your 20s and 30s,
Yeah,
run for office.
throw your hat in the
There you
ring.
had. I will help. I promise.
Okay.
All
All right. So right now we're going to end this. Thank you all for viewing. Thank you, Greco.
Thank you.
It was an honor getting to meet you. It really
Yes.
was. Now we have a bond forever.
Well, we got a bunch of bonds. You
Yeah.
got kids. You got kids. Your kids. I love your kids.
Okay. Thank you. So you guys I'll see you next Tea Time with Bunky, which I believe is the 22nd, where I'm going to have special guests who had me as his guest, Two Humble Productions. Anthony, I can't wait. I'm so excited and nervous because he's like a legend to me.
I actually announced my candidacy on his show.
This is going to be awesome.
Yes.
I have some great things down the line. You guys stay tuned. Share this post. Share other posts or whatever. Trying to get Tea Time out there, so people can see what Sullivan County is about. Okay. All right. Well, you have a good night.
You
Good
too.
night, everybody.
Night, guys.